I'm supposed to be folding my laundry right now, but something came onto my heart that I would like to share with you. And this video is going to be unedited and unscripted. Why should you, homeschool mom, homeschool dad, focus on the character training and grit of your kids as a priority over academics? You know, I was making dinner last night and we got a text from our youngest son. And the text I've already shared out here that it made me cry. But the reason is this youngest son of ours was saved until last. We have 5 sons. He was saved until last, I'm confident, so that there would be 6 of us to keep him alive. That child, if you look up in an old school dictionary, if you look up the word busy, his picture was right there in the old school dictionary. He was busy. He was not, scheming is the wrong word, but he was always planning what he was going to do. He was always working on what was next and squeezing in to get whatever it is that he wanted. He didn't read till he was 10. He struggled with things like spelling. He struggled with getting his lessons done independently because he required somebody next to him, not only to keep him company, but to read instructions and such to him. Fast forward, he ended up finishing high school with his associate's degree and is currently attending business school at a university. And so here we are. We spent most of his homeschool journey reading to him, marinating with him with story, making sure that he knew his basic math facts, and focusing on character and heart. This child was so determined, and he was so strong-willed. I nicknamed him what are those things? I can't even remember the nickname. He's like one of those rolling construction trucks with the rollers, steamroller. I would call him steamroller because when he wants something, he literally just keeps going until he gets it. He just pushes through. When he was younger, that meant he was steamrolling his brothers. He was steamrolling classmates like in Sunday school or whatnot. He would steamroll me to get past and through so that he could get what he wanted, get what he needed. When he was an infant, I had a friend ask me, I always find it curious to observe infants and then watch them grow to see if what you see in their infancy is a character quality that will carry through their life. And so I'm holding my 2-week-old youngest son, and she asks me, can you tell what his character quality is? And I said, can an infant be determined? I kid you not. He was a determined infant. And sure enough, he was a beautiful, perfect child until he was probably 18 months old. I wore him in one of those carry packs because one of those Bjorn baby carriers, because I just didn't want to lose him. He was so determined to get everything that he wanted. And he was content to hang out with me until he was released into the wild. And then he would do things like his older brothers would not want him to mess up their Legos. And so he would wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, sneak silently into their room, take the Legos, play with it, and put it back before his older brothers woke up. Determined. Now he's in this university where he's thriving, right? He shouldn't be, but he's thriving. He shouldn't be because he didn't read so late, because academics they were a challenge for him. And yet his determination is why he's thriving in college. He messaged us last night, and the part that made me cry and made his dad tear up was that he basically said, thank you for raising me right. It really made a difference today. Love ya. But in the big long message ahead of that, he talked about, and he sent us a picture, and he looked sharp in his pressed white shirt and belt and dark pants and nice shoes. And he was very well put together. He looked stunning, which was great because he's been sick for 13 weeks, injured and sick. So this was the first real shot of him looking healthy and bright and cheery. It was fantastic. But in this big, long text message, as he's updating us on the daily events, because we were supposed to talk, he's like, okay, this is what I've been doing. His college transcripts from the community college up here did not seamlessly transfer over. They're having a hard time reconciling some of the classes that he's already taken. And so he had 3 meetings with department heads of the different academics in order to advocate for himself. He had another meeting with another academic planner. Then there's this brilliant business mind on campus. And so he wants to pick this guy's brain. This guy only mentors 2 people in the course of I think it's a 3 or 5 year thing. And if you get selected to be pulled under his wing, it's a big win. So he messaged us that he actually got a coffee date with this guy, and he was able to just sit and chat and get to know him. And he also did some other things for his academics. And his message to us was, thank you. Thank you for raising me right, because it helped me today. His determination, see, his goals are big. He wants to be an Olympic rower someday. He wants to be a business owner someday. He wants to be somebody that profoundly impacts his community someday. So he recognizes that where he is in life right now, he has this wealth of resources that if he just taps into, are going to help him achieve his goals. If he taps into the Olympic coach that trains him when he's up here and asks him questions, he's going to be pulled into that part of his journey. If he taps into the business minds at the university, he'll be able to pick the brains and follow their footsteps in the snow. If he taps into people that dress the way that he wants to dress and carries themselves the way that he wants to carry himself, he'll be able to pull himself forward. So focusing on character and grit is so important, because sometimes your kids are a challenge. This child was a challenge. He was a challenge to keep busy. I taught him to crochet because he couldn't sit still, and I needed to teach him to do something with his hands to keep himself still. So he became a master crocheter from the time he was 4 until now. He was a challenging kid. He would pick at his brothers and just, oh my goodness, he would bug one of his brothers. I call them the salad dressing bros, because when they're together beautifully, they make this beautiful salad dressing type thing. But man, when they're not together, they separate like oil and water. It's ridiculous. Our youngest son's mission in life was to be annoyed and annoying until he irked his older brother. The second his older brother was irked, he would snap out of it and he'd be all happy and joyful. And then, so I go from dealing with one challenging child to now another challenging child. It was exhausting when he was younger. But we focused on character. We focused on grit. We pushed academics aside 100% of the time. If there were attitudes, if there was frustration, if there was a character flaw that was raising its ugly head, and we would lean into that, we would role play and create things for the boys to practice. I would send them outside and make them run until they sweat. I would have them drop and give me 20 push-ups, planks, or whatever it is they needed to do in order to get some of that frustration out. As they got taller than me, which happened pretty quickly, I would have them sit so that they would have a visual of, hey, I'm the authority and you're not. And so I want you to not argue with me like this, looking down at me, but I want you to recognize that you're talking to your mom. And so your tone of voice and the choice of your words makes such a huge difference. Homeschool mom, homeschool dad, whoever is watching this, whether you're just a parent, not just a parent, but whether you're parenting your kids and they're going to public school, traditional school, private school, doesn't matter. Or if, like us, you're a homeschool parent, focus on the character of your kids. Focus on their attitudes and lean into the things that are going to build them up in the way they should go. When they're ready and they fly, if they have impeccable integrity, a strong work ethic, if they're responsible, if they're diligent, if they're kind, if they're compassionate, and if you've raised them to understand that it's okay to ask for help. And it's not just okay, it's the way that you get where you want to go faster. You ask for help. If you've done your job over 18 years, 15 years, however long you have them under your roof. He ripped me off. He left home right as he turned 18. His other brothers waited until they were older. I was not ready for him to go, but he was ready. So if you do your job when they're young, even if they're difficult, even if they're the most determined people on the planet, even if they're strong-willed, you look at your kids and you recognize whatever is driving you crazy in this moment is something that needs to be refined before they go into life. My boy was extremely determined and a steamroller. So what we spoke over him all the time is that it's good that you're determined. The Lord is creating you to be a strong leader, and I expect in your future that you will lead people. But you may not steamroll your people. You must love your people. You must be an excellent listener. You must be someone that can receive feedback, constructive criticism, and make changes so that you will be a better leader. Those types of conversations we had over and over and over and over and then over again. And he got it. Now he's 18 and he is a self-advocate for him. He's been in classes where professors just gave him a really hard time because one professor didn't like athletes. And so historically, this professor singles out the athletes and gives them a really hard time. Well, my son would advocate for himself. He would not argue with the teacher, but he would take the low grades that he was given, and he would take them to the school advocate and say, am I just reading this wrong? This was the assignment. This is what I was given. They would make the correction and say, oh no, that's an A. And then he would take that correction back to the professor. So he learned to self-advocate with respect and with dignity. He's learned that it's very important to look around and to see what are the resources around me. How can I be of service? And how can they be of service to me? And he pushes through, he uses that steamroller determination to get the help that he needs so that he can reach his big, big goals. It's not a small thing to want to be an Olympian someday. It's not a small thing to want to create a business and start to be profitable. He's in a business class right now that the assignment by the end of the semester is to have a viable business making money. And so one of the meetings he had yesterday was with that professor. Professor, have you ever had an athlete actually accomplish this goal? And the professor said no. And my son said, challenge accepted. And so he and the professor have now agreed to meet and brainstorm and to workshop this so that he can actually achieve his goal. This is not tooting my son's horn. This is to let you know that in your home, your children have specific character qualities and specific character deficits. It depends, right? They might And every year, it seemed like my kids would have these threads of things that we would need to mold and practice over and over again. Sometimes it was integrity, being a truth teller. Sometimes it was being diligent, following through with what you said you were going to do. For my youngest son, it was all about reining in your determination to get what you want and make sure that you're not destroying the people around you. When your kids are little, and you can see, okay, maybe they have an issue with lying. We had that issue in our house for a season where it was lying. Now you have small kids that are storytellers, right? They don't want to fess up to the things that they want to do. That they did, and they want to make sure that they don't get in trouble. And so they tell stories, and they're not truth tellers. Well, you can see through them, through into their future, that someday they're going to be a man or woman that needs to be a man or woman of integrity. So you need to be speaking that over them, that you are training them up so that when they are an adult and they speak, people listen and people care about what they say, and that people trust their words. And the challenge with being a liar is that once you lose people's trust, it's really hard to get it back, right? So you look at your kids and you look at what is their character deficit right in this moment. We all have it. We all have something in our character that we need to be working on at this moment, right? None of us are perfect. We're either self-centered, egocentric, irresponsible, lazy, not diligent, all of those. So your kids, each one, have something that they need to get better at, right? To grow in. Now, you may be luckier than me, and all of your kids may have the same deficit. Oh, that makes the training so much easier when you only have to focus on one character quality. My kids all had different issues. They just did. And they would trade. Okay, I'm going to have an issue for the first 3 hours of the day, and then the next one's got, good, I got shift 2. I'm going to have an issue for the second part of the day, and the other 3 would be like, we got the rest of the day, and we're going to carry right into the night. So I always felt like I was character training and correcting and disciplining and training from sun up until sundown every single day of the week. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And I look back at some of the seasons in homeschool and I see almost zero evidence that we did academics. Almost zero. But the kids did suicide drills, and they did planks, and they scrubbed floorboards, and we had 2-week-long bathroom boot camps where one child would wash it and then the other one would go right in after it, and then they would wash it, and then the other one would go right after it and they would wash it, as an exercise of diligence, an exercise in discipline, an exercise in following through. Or fill in the blank, stacking wood, weeding, doing the dishes, being the laundry captain, being the executive chef of meals. There was so much character training, so much of leaning into life skills and what it means to be practicing to be an excellent adult. Not expecting them to be adults at age 4, but practicing the qualities that you want to see as a future adult. And each kid's going to be different. And I want you to know that it's okay if you didn't get to the academics today. If all you did was correct attitude and come alongside and snuggle and encourage your kids and read a story and make dinner and fold and put your laundry away, that it was a successful day, as I stumble on my tongue in this unedited ramble. It's okay if all you get to is character training, heart encouraging, attitude correction. It's okay, because when your kids are older, they're going to be loving. They're going to be kind. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to be responsible. They're going to be courageous and bold and determined in the right way. They're going to be expert help seekers. And you can teach a 14, 16, 12-year-old, 19-year-old in a day with a great attitude what should have taken 6 weeks when they were in 7th grade. So you can teach them in a day what they need to know, or because they're teachable, because they're exactly what they're supposed to be. Or you can arm wrestle a 12-year-old who's a twit and back talks and rolls their eyes and beats up their siblings and kicks the dog and never puts their stuff away, right? You can make them do the academics and just say, oh, we'll get to the character later. But you'll lose them. And they won't be set up for success. Don't do it. Don't sacrifice their future adult thriving by putting an A+ on a paper that is held by a person with an F- of a character quality or attitude. Don't do it. Instead, work on the character, work on the heart, work on the attitude. I'm telling you, it catapults them forward. When I look at my sons now, they all had different struggles growing up. We had all kinds of different struggles. And it was exhausting because I was completely outnumbered by these kids that were very strong in their deficits. Wow. So much training, so much practicing, so much. Okay, you see something that's going on today and you go, that's it. This is the challenge that my child's having right now. Let's just pick something out of the hat. Let's say they're a liar, because I had a couple liars, a couple seasons of liars. So let's say that they lie. And the reason that they lie is that they don't want to get in trouble. So now you recognize that and you go, okay, I have to fix this. I have to help them fix this deficit of a character quality. So now you put on your thinking cap and you think, okay, how can we practice this in a fun way? So what I did is the next day after breakfast, we would circle up in the living room and we would sit on the floor and we would play truth telling, lie telling. So I would sit and I'd put something in the middle of the circle and I would say, what would happen if I stole this? Now ask me, hey mom, are you the one that stole the chicken? So they'd ask me and I'd go, no, I would never steal the chicken. That would just be wrong. And of course the kids are like, Mom, it's behind your back. I'm like, okay, wait, ask me again. So I'd put it back and I'd steal it again and I'd put it under my sweater. Hey mom, did you steal the chicken? No, I don't steal. Why? Maybe it was that person's fault. And they would laugh. And I would say, okay, wait, let's practice. Let's practice doing it right. So take the chicken and you go back and forth. You be an excellent overactor like Jim Carrey. Fall on the ground, have big fake crocodile tears, then practice doing it right. And then have the kids practice lying, but they get to do it like with a dinosaur voice or a deep voice or a really high voice, like make it fun. And then practice doing it right. And then say, sometimes it's hard when you get caught doing something that you weren't supposed to do to actually tell the truth. And then just have that conversation. But it's always better to tell the truth. Okay? And you work out these situations where you can practice with your kids the thing that they're struggling with, and then you practice doing it wrong and you practice doing it right. And you repeat it for however long it takes. Okay, we're going to practice truth telling again. So then you put something else then, or the next kid pretends that they stole something or broke something or whatever, fill in the blank. The secret of character training and grit training and heart and attitude training is, and we go over this in our Homeschooling Olympians Masterclass, and it's so important that you observe your kids and you identify something that you need to train, and then you create a fun way to practice that for 3 or 5 minutes a day, only in a pocket of time when everybody's happy. For us, it was after breakfast. Almost without fail, everybody had a good attitude right after breakfast, right before school. And we would play for 3 or 5 minutes, and then we would move into school, and we'd do school stuff in the morning. So that's my word for you, Mama. Make sure you're observing your kids. Make sure that you're leaning into character training. It pays off dividends in the end. It's why my oldest son is now married and holding an excellent career. My second son is now married and is pursuing his dream career. My third son is on the other side of the country studying music to be a worship leader. My fourth son is saving for the next part of his degree. And my baby is in university studying business. And they are successful and they are well known by the people around them, all of them. Those are sailor boys. Those are sailor boys. That means something, right? That means something. It means they stick out like sore thumbs, because if you walk up to a door with your arms full, they're going to rush in front of you and open the door and hold it for you, even though they've been rebuked by people for doing that. How dare you hold the door open for me? Well, it's the right thing to do, ma'am. Okay, they stick out like sore thumbs. You ask them for help, they get up and they run to you. They push me lovingly out of the kitchen to do the dishes if I'm doing the dishes. They come alongside and they roll up their sleeves and say, "Put me to work." They don't ask if you need help. They say, "Put me to work." Different. It's a different way of raising up your kids. They're kind, they're loving, they're goofy, they're funny, they're strong, they're integrous. And your kids can be think about what you want them to be when they fly the coop, when they leave your nest. You want them to be all these things. You want them to be loving. You want them to be kind. You want them to be compassionate. You want them to be disciplined and responsible and determined and all of those things. But you might be in the trenches right now, right? Surrounded by kids with dirty hands that are poking at each other, and he hit me and she threw that, and who stole my chicken? Right? You're in the trenches. Pick something and start designing a way to practice so that your kids can see what it looks like when it's wrong and what it looks like when it's right, in a time and space where it's safe. Right? Nobody's in trouble. You're just role playing. You're just showing them what it's supposed to look like. That's why when the Lord says, train them up in the way they should go, you train your kids, you train them, you train them. Discipline means training. You train your kids by showing them what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like in a safe space. And then you watch as they get older, they then take that behavior and that attitude on themselves, and it catapults them past all of their peers. It gives them unfair advantages. It's a beautiful thing. So my hope for you is that you invest your heart, soul, mind, and strength in first loving the Lord, in second loving your spouse, in third raising up your children in the way they should go. And then give it your all. Give it your all. Focus on heart, focus on character, focus on grit, focus on all of those things. Sprinkle in academics. You don't waste, you do train up, you do teach your kids, but you focus on that stuff. And then my hope for you is someday in the future, 5, 10, 15 years from now, you too get a phone call or a text message that says, "Mama, thank you. Thank you for raising me up right, because today it made a difference." Have a great day. Love y'all.